China, it's truly a vast and fascinating country. 9,600,000 square kilometers of land, 3 million square kilometers of seas. And it's never still, changing with the rotation of the seasons. To fly like a bird is to see things that are beyond your imagination. You visit places you would never before have dreamed of. And even familiar places, when you look down on them from on high, will assume a completely different appearance. We'll take you to explore places close at hand and far away. To witness nature and geography, humanity and history. Join us as we embark on a unique journey across the sky. This is Shanghai, the great metropolis located on China's east coast, at the point where the Yangtze empties into the sea. The city lies on a plain which is, on average, just 4 meters above sea level. Two rivers cross Shanghai, the Suzhou and the Huangpu. The area of the city west of the Huangpu is called Puxi, and that to the east, Pudong. We'll begin our journey at the mouth of the Huangpu River and fly upstream to gain our first sight of Shanghai's extraordinary skyline. Here, the Yangtze is met by its final tributary, the Huangpu. The point where the Yangtze passes the lighthouse and empties into the East China Sea marks the end of its 6,300-kilometer journey. The value of the site where Shanghai stands today was recognized just over a century ago. Here, the sea connects with the rest of the world, while the Yangtze provides access to China's hinterland. Accessibility has been the key to Shanghai's rapid development. Moving upstream along the Huangpu, before long we arrive at the Bund. More than 20 Western-style buildings come into view along the riverfront. They are the defining image of the Bund. The Bund is just 1,500 meters long, yet at one time, half of China's entire wealth was concentrated here. Before its rise, the Bund was nothing more than a muddy shoal. But following the Opium War of 1840, when Shanghai was forced to open up as an international port, British merchants began taking an interest in this stretch of riverbank. Almost overnight, its fate was transformed. At the southern end of the Bund is the old meteorological tower dating from the late 19th century. Flags flown from the tower would indicate to ships entering the port what the weather conditions were like. Originally, a huge black iron ball rested on top of the tower. At precisely 12 noon every day, this iron ball would drop. People would set their timepieces accordingly. In 1927, a more modern clock was installed on another building on the Bund. This clock was brought here from the UK. Even in the earliest period of globalization, the need to be connected and keep pace with the rest of the world was recognized here in Shanghai. So, Greenwich Mean Time was adopted, with Shanghai becoming the first recognized city in the GMT+8 time zone. With Shanghai emerging as a major international port, financial institutions flocked to the Bund. The building with the white dome was once the headquarters of a powerful bank. The neoclassical design exudes an air of elegance and solemnity. This style has long been adopted by banks around the world in order to convey the impression of strength and stability. This is Shanghai's busiest street. Despite originally being part of the city's French concession, for a long time it was nothing more than a dirt track where the British walked their horses. Because of this, it was known as the Horse Path. The Horse Path would become the starting point of China's journey to modernization. This route would have Shanghai's first road lamp and first tram line. Eventually, it was given the name it's known by today, Nanjing Road. Next, by following Shanghai's rivers, we'll seek out the city's industrial genes. We'll see how old factory buildings have become art galleries, and how traditional industries are striving to become city hallmarks. The Suzhou River is the main waterway connecting Shanghai with the surrounding cities and rural areas. Before Shanghai became an international port, the river was known as the Wusong. It was renamed after foreign settlers in Shanghai realized that it led to the city of Suzhou. The end of the Suzhou River is marked by a bridge. When this bridge was built in 1907, it was called the Waibaidu or toll-free bridge. No one crossing it was expected to pay. The sluice at the bridge is opened twice a day to regulate the water level. When it's open, it allows the Suzhou River to empty into the much wider Huangpu. The Huangpu River, with its source in Zhejiang province, runs through the city from west to east. With Shanghai's rapid industrial development in the early 20th century, larger waterways were needed for transporting raw materials and generating hydroelectric energy. The Suzhou River was clearly too small to serve such purposes, so merchants turned instead to the Huangpu. This building with the tall chimneys was once a power plant. It supplied the current for Shanghai's first electric lamp. Today, this spacious building provides a home for works of art. While old buildings like this have been given a new lease of life, a number of traditional industries have been revitalized. Shipbuilding has been part of the Shanghai economy for a very long time. Over a century ago, China's first modern shipbuilding company was founded right here on the Huangpu River. Today, there are few types of ship that Shanghai cannot build. Work is currently underway on the hull of a 320,000-ton oil tanker. The total cost of the order is $80 million. Every year, Shanghai Waigaoqiao Shipbuilding Company Limited builds more than 20 super large ships like this. China, it's truly a vast and fascinating country. 9,600,000 square kilometers of land, 3 million square kilometers of seas. And it's never still, changing with the rotation of the seasons. To fly like a bird is to see things that are beyond your imagination. You visit places you would never before have dreamed of. And even familiar places, when you look down on them from on high, will assume a completely different appearance. We'll take you to explore places close at hand and far away. To witness nature and geography, humanity and history. Join us as we embark on a unique journey across the sky. To visit Shanghai is to take a journey through time. The buildings are like clocks, indicating the time they belong to. As we fly among the different structures, we get a sense of how open-minded the city has always been, even during troubled times. The old buildings, fine sights in themselves, also have amazing stories to tell. Less than 50 kilometers from central Shanghai, there's a quaint old town called Zhujiajiao. Before Shanghai became an international port, it was known as Little Suzhou. The town of Zhujiajiao is 1,700 years old. In Shanghai itself, there's an ancient temple that's just as old. This is Longhua Temple, said to have originally been built 1,700 years ago. In the Tang Dynasty, Empress Wu Zetian had a Buddha hall built here. For 1,000 years, visitors have flocked to Longhua Temple. It's also where the locals come in spring to pray for happiness. While this city often appears to be youthful, in reality it has a very long history. In central Shanghai, there's an elegant southern-style garden. In the Ming Dynasty, Yuyuan was a private garden. Today, it's an oasis of peace and tranquility for the people of the city. Yuyuan Garden is a particularly popular destination during Lantern Festival. The festival is dominated by lanterns. As it's the year of the rooster, the lanterns feature roosters. We head towards Jiuqiu Bridge. It's said that ghosts can only move in straight lines, so walking across the zigzag Jiuqiu Bridge allows you to escape from these evil spirits. The tradition of holding a lantern fair in Yuyuan Garden dates from the late Qing Dynasty. In this modern era where change is a constant feature, traditions are especially prized. As we fly over Shanghai, we occasionally see neatly arranged houses with red roofs. Despite appearances, these are not modern villas. They are, in fact, some of Shanghai's oldest buildings. Before the People's Republic of China was founded in 1949, they housed 60% of the city's population. The main entrances feature door frames made of stone, so they're known as shikumen, or stone gatehouses. In the late 19th century, the Jiangsu-Zhejiang region was plagued by warfare, so people fled the area in large numbers for Shanghai. Their arrival created a shortage of housing, so to save space, houses were built in orderly rows. Rich families could buy a number of these shikumen, while poorer ones would share one with several other families. This particular stone gateway is a witness to history. Here in 1921, 13 delegates from across the country founded the Communist Party of China. "28 years later, under this party, the People's Republic of China was founded. Fascinating old buildings are to be found dotted throughout Shanghai. The Ohel Moshe Synagogue, close to Changyang Road, is one of the city's most famous sights. On this wall are inscribed the names of more than 10,000 Jewish refugees. All of them at one time lived in Shanghai. And all of them worshipped at the Ohel Moshe Synagogue. During the Second World War, 30,000 Jews arrived in Shanghai, having fled Nazi persecution. The city was the only place in China at the time that they could enter without a visa. This sculpture depicts a local Shanghai woman sheltering a Jewish girl. It illustrates how the city has cared for persecuted people forced to flee their homeland. Next, we'll fly to southwestern Shanghai, where we'll get an impression of how the city looked in the old days. We'll visit a film park filled with replicas of famous sites on the Bund, where numerous films and television programs set in Shanghai have been filmed. When recreating old Shanghai in films and on TV, the trolley buses are an essential feature. With careful arrangement, as few as 10 actors can give the impression of a bustling Shanghai street scene. In some dramas, actors are obliged to fly. But with the help of a wire, this isn't a problem. With their usual fast pace and riveting storylines, films about Shanghai are typically very popular. China, it's truly a vast and fascinating country. 9,600,000 square kilometers of land, 3 million square kilometers of seas. And it's never still, changing with the rotation of the seasons. To fly like a bird is to see things that are beyond your imagination. You visit places you would never before have dreamed of. And even familiar places, when you look down on them from on high, will assume a completely different appearance. We'll take you to explore places close at hand and far away. To witness nature and geography, humanity and history. Join us as we embark on a unique journey across the sky. Next on our Shanghai journey, we'll visit the city's financial center. From on high, we'll gain a view of the vertical world people have created here. Every morning, crowds of people catch the ferry across the Huangpu River on their way to work. The ferry used to be the main means of transport between the two sides of the Huangpu. That was until 1976, when the first bridge was built over the river. Since then, a new bridge has been built here every 3 years. Flying over the Lupu Bridge, we reach the heart of Shanghai. Here, the Huangpu River takes a 90-degree turn, popularly known as the Golden Bend. For many years, the bund on the Huangpu's west bank was the wealthiest place in China. But in the 1990s, Lu Jia's Way on the east bank took its place. This is the Oriental Pearl Tower, the first modern high-rise on the east bank of the Huangpu. The tower was designed to transmit TV signals across this massive city. Built at a cost of 800 million yuan, it's the world's third tallest TV tower. In the evenings, the Oriental Pearl Tower changes color. Usually, it's blue or white. But for holidays, it turns pink. During the Beijing Olympics in 2008, the tower was as red as China's national flag. As a mark of respect following the terrorist attacks in Paris in 2015, the tower featured the colors of the French flag. Such gestures reveal a lot about the character of Shanghai's people. This building, dwarfed by skyscrapers, is the historical launchpad of China's capital market. It was in Shanghai in 1990 that the first stock exchange in the People's Republic of China opened to business. This building was completed just 3 years later. The ground floor hall can accommodate 1,600 traders at a time. When the stock exchange first opened, it was overwhelmed by investors. People who'd failed to get inside used binoculars to see what was going on. Some even traded stocks via walkie-talkies. This is the Jinmao Tower in Lujiazui. Standing over 400 meters high, with its tall, stately appearance, it resembles a traditional pagoda. The number of floors, 88, is symbolic. 8 is a lucky number in China. Yet, the man who designed the building wasn't Chinese, but American. The people on the edge of the tower are using the Skywalk. It's an open-air, glass-bottomed pathway 340 meters above the ground. Next to the Jinmao Tower is the Shanghai World Financial Center. The top of the building features a trapezoid opening, earning it the nickname, the bottle opener. Like a sail, the taller a tower is, the more wind it catches. The designer of this 492-meter tower took the bold decision of leaving an opening at the top. By letting the wind pass through, its impact on the building has been reduced. It wasn't long, however, before an even taller building sprang up beside the World Financial Center. Shanghai is one of the tallest cities in the world. The Shanghai Tower at 632 meters is the tallest building in China. This 127-story building has a floor space of 500,000 square meters. It's capable of accommodating 30,000 workers at a time. And it's an energy-efficient tower. On the top of the tower, there are 270 wind turbines. The energy these generate from the high-altitude winds powers the lighting for much of the building. On top of the tower, there's a spiral system that traps rainwater. The water is channeled into huge tanks, which supply the building with water. In this part of the city, every building is a financial center in itself. As for the district, Lujiazui influences every other part of Shanghai. As the city's financial center, it's creating a modern legend. 30 years ago, this was an area of fields. But when Shanghai was embarking on a period of rapid development, it happened to be the right place at the right time. Even in this modern city, the sounds of traditional matchmaking can still be heard. We'll also hear a song of joy emanating from a paradise for children. And we'll witness a carnival in a kingdom of animals. It's generally recognized that the heart of Shanghai is People's Square. Located at the center of the square is a magnificent building. Near the square there's a park. Every weekend it becomes a matchmaking venue. However, the matchmakers aren't third parties. They're the parents of the potential couples. The open umbrellas provide personal information about the marriage seekers: height, career, income, and of course, the kind of spouse they're looking for.
From emerging powers to expanding partnerships, from fighting poverty to combating climate change, booming economies, war-ravaged nations, and everything in between. We capture the changes affecting the most dynamic and diverse continent on the planet, taking you beyond the headlines to the people and their stories. Asia Today, delivering Asia to the world.
China, it's truly a vast and fascinating country. 9,600,000 square kilometers of land, 3 million square kilometers of seas. And it's never still, changing with the rotation of the seasons. To fly like a bird is to see things that are beyond your imagination. You visit places you would never before have dreamed of. And even familiar places, when you look down on them from on high, will assume a completely different appearance. We'll take you to explore places close at hand and far away. To witness nature and geography, humanity and history. Join us as we embark on a unique journey across the sky. Next, we're flying south to a popular resort. 60 years after Disneyland first opened in the United States, it finally arrived in Shanghai. The tallest building in Shanghai Disneyland is the enchanted storybook castle. The design is based on Neuschwanstein Castle in Germany, although there is a Chinese edition, a peony at the top. There's also a park based on traditional Chinese garden design. In every host country, Disneyland attempts to embrace local features. Not far from Shanghai Disneyland, there's a United Nations of Animals. It brings together creatures from all over the globe. First to greet us are the kangaroos, the iconic marsupials from Australia. They seem to be very interested in their drone. The meerkats from southern Africa look both shy and curious. The dark spots around their eyes act as natural sunglasses. Even when the sunlight is very intense, they can look at the sun without damaging their sight. Not all penguins live in the freezing Antarctic. These Magellanic penguins come from the temperate zone in South America. Next up, the flamingos. The ones with pink plumage are greater flamingos. Those with red feathers are American flamingos. Red is not their original color. It's a byproduct of their diet. Red or orange particles are broken down and stored in their bodies to appear sometime later in their plumage. Large numbers of bears are found in the park. The ones with a V on their fur are Malayan sun bears. Those that are dancing are brown bears. These immigrants from different countries share certain hobbies in common. In return for food, they climb trees or even drive vehicles. In these forests, south of the Huangpu River, lives an unusual species of small deer-like animal. The popular impression of them is that they're extremely ugly. Their name in Chinese, Jiangtou Shu Mu, means head of a buck, eyes of a rat. It isn't fair, however, to judge things by their appearance. These water deer are very timid animals. They just want to lie low in the forest. The water deer, which are native to Shanghai, died out here 100 years ago. But in 2007, 20 of them were imported, and now their number has risen to over 300. There's something captivating about a city that's forever young. Shanghai is full of vitality, and it makes people forget they're getting old. Dianshan Lake on the western outskirts of Shanghai is a popular place for sailing. And here, people run for the simple joy of it. People cheer for the team they support, enjoying the competition. They also share a bond. For everyone watching, this is their home stadium. When the lights are turned on, Shanghai becomes even more beautiful. And each pinpoint of light has a story behind it. Over 20 million people have chosen to pursue their dreams in this city. Shanghai's development is founded on the accumulation of talent. The city has distinguished itself by bringing together ideas and sharing resources. On the last leg of our Shanghai tour, we'll find that this is a city aiming both far and high. We'll explore the great potential of the latest science and technology, and we'll experience China at high speed. We'll also visit an amazing new project and see how it will bring the world together. This quiet stretch of land called Chongming Island lies at the point where the Yangtze empties into the sea. It's little more than 40 kilometers from central Shanghai. Silt delivered by the Yangtze continues to build this island up. In fact, it's been steadily getting bigger for the past 1,300 years. It's currently expanding towards the East China Sea at a rate of 200 meters a year. At the island's easternmost end is Dongtan, an area of coastal wetland. In summer, this is a quiet place to rest. In late autumn, by contrast, it's a place of intense activity when thousands of migratory birds flock here to pass the winter. During this extraordinary migration, it's the swans who are to be the most admired. They've come all the way from Siberia, covering 1,000 kilometers a day. To save their energy during the flight, the cranes use the winds to their advantage. This they do by forming either a splayed or a herringbone pattern. This amazing technique has evolved out of practical necessity. Saying goodbye to the cranes, we return to modern-day Shanghai. This is called the Aeroplane Building, and seen from the air, the reason for the name becomes obvious. Back in 1932, beginning with the January 28th incident, the Japanese began a series of air raids on Shanghai. This convinced China of the need to produce its own aircraft. A year later, the Aeroplane Building was erected at a cost of 100,000 yuan. Flying west, we reach China's largest civil aircraft assembly center. This is the first regional jet made in China. This one is in the final stages of assembly. These jets have been ordered by Chengdu Airlines. The C919 aircraft outside the plant are large commercial planes, also made in China. The bulk of the world's passenger planes are currently manufactured by Boeing and Airbus, but the C919 will soon break this duopoly. In the western suburbs of Shanghai, we find Mount Sheshan. Rising 100 meters above sea level, it's Shanghai's tallest mountain. At this relatively unimpressive height, scientists are working on extending the limits of human observation. Here, 117 years ago, the French established an astronomical observatory and set up China's first large telescope. This made it possible to delve much deeper into the universe. Today, at the foot of Mount Tianma, not far from here, is Asia's largest mobile radio telescope. The telescope receives radio signals from space, signals which may help us understand what the universe is like 10 billion light-years away. In 2013, the Tianma Telescope, working with 5 other telescopes in Beijing, Xinjiang and other regions, helped guide the Chang'e 3 lunar probe to a precise landing on the Moon. We're about to follow this winding bridge out across the East China Sea. At 32 kilometers long, this is the second longest cross-sea bridge in the world. The S-shaped design acts to reduce the frontal impact from ocean currents. The bridge leads to Xiaoyangshan Island, where a world-class container port is located. The waters around Yangshan Port are 16 meters deep, sufficient for the world's largest container ships to dock safely. This super container ship is about 400 meters long and can carry 14,000 standard containers. These containers, if they were piled up, would reach 3 times the height of Mount Chumulangma, otherwise known as Everest. Every day, as many as 45,000 containers are moved through Yangshan, yet it's just one part of the Shanghai port chain. The container handling capacity of Shanghai port accounts for roughly 1/10 of the world's total. Yangshan Port, seen from the air, reveals Shanghai's determination to be a world leader. Shanghai has developed thanks to its location on the Yangtze River. In the course of little more than 100 years, it's been transformed from a small harbour into one of the world's great ports. Shanghai has big dreams, yet through its actions, it reveals itself to be very much down to earth.